Hello and welcome to our channel. This is how world wars begin, not with declarations but with denials. When asked on national television whether the U.S. is now at war with Iran, Vice President J.D. Vance gave a stunning answer. We're not at war with Iran. We're at war with Iran's nuclear program. But that raises one terrifying question. What's the difference, and does it even matter anymore? Tehran's rhetoric is defiant. Supreme Leader Khamenei vows a crushing response, framing U.S. actions as violations of international law. What started as precision airstrikes could now spiral into something far more dangerous. The Trump administration claims it wants to avoid war, yet American bombs have already struck deep into Iranian territory. The question is no longer how this conflict started, but how it might end. And the truth, no one has control over what happens next. Not Trump, not Tehran, not even Tel Aviv. Each new deployment, each new strike brings the world closer to the brink. The question is not just what leaders say, but what their actions unleash. In this dangerous ambiguity, the potential for catastrophe grows. The world holds its breath, waiting to see if words or actions will define the future. This crisis is decades in the making, rooted in the 1979 Islamic Revolution that toppled a U.S.-backed monarch and set Washington and Tehran on a collision course. The relationship since has been a litany of grievances. The hostage crisis, U.S. support for Iraq, Iran's backing of militant groups. Now, the conflict has shifted from proxies to direct strikes on Iranian soil, a dangerous new chapter. The unwritten rules that kept the shadow war contained have been broken. What was once a contest for influence is now a direct military exchange. Both sides are navigating uncharted territory with the risk of fatal misjudgment higher than ever. U.S. airstrikes inside Iran mark a turning point. These were not symbolic. They targeted key command centers and missile facilities deep inside Iranian territory. Washington claims self-defense, the Project the Midnight Hammer, aiming to blow up Iran's nuclear facilities and disrupt attacks by Iranian-backed militias. For Iran, the strikes are a direct assault on sovereignty and a blow to national pride. Despite Trump's claim that Iran's key nuclear facilities have been completely obliterated, satellite images show otherwise, Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan all still standing. Many targets are buried deep underground. That means only two options remain. Option 1, let Iran continue its nuclear program, under the radar, possibly toward a bomb. Option 2, keep bombing, again and again, indefinitely. And if Iran retaliates, that's how endless wars begin. One strike, one response, and then another. The war has come home to Iran, raising the stakes for both nations. The U.S. is now committed to a path of direct confrontation. Iran must contend with its own vulnerability. The precedent is set, the conflict is no longer confined to proxies. The world waits to see how and where Iran will retaliate. Iran has retaliated, not in full. But don't let that fool you. There are over 50,000 U.S. troops stationed across the Middle East, many within reach of Iranian-backed militias. And on June 22nd, they attacked U.S. Army bases in Qatar. And there's another nightmare scenario, the Strait of Hormuz, the artery for 20% of the world's oil trade. If Iran moves to shut it down, the global economy could enter free fall overnight. And that would force America's hand again. The Strait of Hormuz is the world's energy lifeline. 1/5 of global oil passes through its narrow waters. Any disruption here would send shock waves through global markets. Iran's control of the northern coast gives it powerful leverage. In conflict, Iran could mine the strait, attack tankers, or use missile strikes, spiking oil prices and risking economic crisis. The U.S. Navy would respond, but even minor incidents could escalate rapidly. The strait is central to Iran's strategy, its ultimate asymmetric weapon. Trump has already promised future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier. But that's exactly what terrifies military planners, a cycle of escalation with no clear exit. Behind closed doors, some in Washington and Tel Aviv aren't just talking about strikes. They're talking about regime change. Senators like Ted Cruz and Lindsey Graham are openly calling for the end of Iran's ruling clerics. And let's not forget, Israel has long wanted to neutralize Iran permanently, not just its nuclear sites, but its leadership. But history offers a brutal warning. Remember Iraq? The U.S. toppled Saddam Hussein in 2003 based on false intelligence and spent the next 2 decades fighting the chaos it unleashed. This could be worse. Iran is larger, stronger, and far more embedded across the region. Iran has already started retaliation. Could this pull in other powers like Russia, China, or even NATO allies? Iran can't match US power conventionally, so it will turn to proxies, missiles, and cyber attacks. The goal: inflict pain, sow chaos, but avoid all-out war. We don't know, and that's the problem. The Trump administration has not shown it can manage such a high-risk conflict, are now in charge of possibly starting a multi-front war in the Middle East, and unlike Iraq, this time the world is already on edge. The greatest danger is uncertainty. This is no controlled chess match, but a volatile crisis where one spark could ignite a regional war. The Middle East is a web of alliances and rivalries. A US-Iran war would quickly draw in others. Russia and China, with ties to Iran, would likely provide diplomatic and economic support, prolonging the conflict. This is how regional wars begin, not with a plan, but with a chain of escalations. The risk of a domino effect is real and terrifying. The world stands on the edge of a conflict no one can control. The stakes are global, and the consequences unpredictable. The momentum of war is hard to stop once it begins. The answer doesn't lie in official declarations. It lies in bombs dropped, troops deployed, and consequences unfolding. And as the cycle of escalation spins faster, we may all soon be living through the next chapter of history. One that started with denials, but ends in devastation. Subscribe for updates as this story evolves, and stay informed as the global chessboard shifts.